The egg is shattered. The king demands blood. Humanity must pay. One boy will judge. He has their power, and he is angry. Deep in the Dragon King's forest, the vibe is officially ruined. Some greedy idiot smashed a dragon egg just to loot the gems inside. Now the locals are absolutely livid and ready to throw hands. The High Council demands immediate deletion for the broken treaty, but one mediator pumps the brakes. She hates humans too, but suggests a test before the mass deletion. She nominates a specific judge for the trial, a human boy named Iren, raised by the forest itself. The king accepts, dropping a massive burden on the kid. Iren must judge his own kind. If they fail, the dragons are sending the entire species to the lobby. Iren hits the royal capital and immediately starts glitching out. He's never seen the outside world and it is absolutely packed. But he has to snap out of tourist mode. He's holding the banhammer for the entire human species. He doesn't understand their culture or why they're so happy. He just knows he's done watching dragons get farmed for loot. So he's infiltrating the academy to see if peace is an option. He hypes himself up for the grind. Step 1, he has to absolutely destroy the entrance exam. Check-in time. The receptionist asks for a surname, but Iren admits he's just a commoner with a first name. She judges him instantly, tossing his exam pass like it's radioactive. She smirks, telling him this tattered garbage badge suits his style perfectly. But Iren is immune to sarcasm. He genuinely thinks it's a compliment and thanks her with a smile. She clicks her tongue in pure disgust and kicks him out before she catches his stupidity. Inside, the luxury is overwhelming. He nervously apologizes to random people, realizing he's totally out of his depth. He spots the school's main character, Lord Bibim, who is practically glowing with rich kid energy. Bibim decides to gatekeep immediately. He orders a commoner to get lost, promising to educate him on his place. He warns him to leave, but Iren's brain rewrites the hostility into helpful advice. He hits a perfect 90-degree bow and screams thank you for the guidance, leaving Bibim completely stunned. The fan club goes berserk. One noblewoman screams like Iren just committed a war crime against fashion. Iren is clueless. Bibim facepalms, realizing he has to deal with this density personally. He drops one last ominous warning about regretting his choices. Iren tries to process the threat, but a staff member barks at him to stop blocking the hallway. He shakes off the weird encounter. He didn't come here to make friends, he came to destroy this exam. Iren stepped into the massive exam hall, locking in for the written test. He took his seat, telling himself he had this in the bag. 5 minutes later, reality hit him like a truck. He finished the paper, but he definitely didn't ace it. He nailed the basic literacy stuff, sure, but history and economics? He stared at those questions like they were written in alien code. He arrived at the practical exam site. No welcome wagon, just the cold shoulder. It got worse. The nobles immediately started roasting him. They called him a country bumpkin and told him to go back to his cows. Iren realized the real lesson here was discrimination. The instructor greeted the rich kids with a winning smile. Then he turned on the country mutt. The crowd looked at Iren like he was a walking disease. The teacher checked his notes. Then he announced to the whole class that Iren's written scores were absolute garbage. Usually that means expulsion, but the practical exam was his last chance. Not that the teacher expected him to pass. The system was simple. Academics plus practical. He just had to survive the next 10 minutes without embarrassing himself. The crowd started chanting, Lord Bibim. They begged their champion to crush the peasant, and the instructor happily gave the green light. Bibim stepped up. He slapped the wall for dramatic effect and asked if Iren knew why this test mattered. It wasn't about fairness. It was to prove the gap between nobles and trash. He screamed that hard work could never beat noble blood. He pointed at the indestructible boulder. Firebolt! The impact shook the ground. The smoke cleared. The rock was scarred. Bibim looked smug while his fan club worshipped his incredible power. Iren wasn't impressed. That was it? Even the crowd whispered that the test looked too easy. Bibim made up a new rule. Beat my score or you fail. Iren agreed, even though that was definitely against school policy. Bibim kept yapping as Iren walked past him toward the legendary stone. He patted the rock. It felt pretty normal. The crowd scoffed at him. He turned to the crowd. Oh, please step back. This might get messy. They just stared. They thought he was joking. He asked the golden question, can I use my bare hands? The teacher nearly choked on his spit. The students howled with laughter. Is he too poor to buy a staff? The instructor gave up. Fine, just get it over with. Iren sighed. He promised himself he would hold back, then squared up. Fist clenched, breath control, aura refinement, eyes open, howl roar. He launched forward. Bibim realized too late that this wasn't a joke. Dragon Claw! He forgot to hold back. The impact hit like a tactical nuke. It shattered the ground and sent shockwaves through the entire campus. The dust cleared. The courtyard looked like a war zone. The students were frozen in terror. Iren exhaled. Phew. Nobody got deleted. He looked at the wreckage. So, did I pass? The teacher's brain short-circuited. Reality refused to load. Bibim got in his face. You cheater! Rocks don't explode from punches. Iren shrugged. It's pretty normal for Dragon King lineage. They didn't believe him. He had an idea. Watch this. Bibim blinked. Hup! He karate chopped a jagged rock into dust. Bibim watched the physics engine break in real time. Iren went back to the main boulder. Left hook, right hook, uppercut. See? He stood over the gravel. If I do it enough, you'll get it. The class was horrified. He's doing it with his bare hands. Bibim ground his teeth into powder. The teacher screamed. That wasn't just a rock. That was a priceless historical artifact, and Iren just turned it into driveway gravel. The instructor was losing his mind over the damage. Then she walked in, a woman with literal antlers and zero concern for the chaos. She asked for the exam venue, and the teacher's brain melted. He tried to slide into her DMs by offering his private office, but she walked right past him. She wondered why humans have the mental resistance of a wet paper towel. She spotted Iren and launched a tactical hug attack. He tried to wiggle out and claimed he passed the exam, but she didn't care about grades. She was here for the mission. Before Iren could explain, the headmaster stormed in. He demanded to know who turned his expensive rock into kitty litter. The teacher pointed the finger to Snitch, but the headmaster froze. He finally saw her. He instantly dropped to his knees. This wasn't just a pretty lady. This was Lilyle of the Dragon King's lineage. The big boss was sweating bullets, asking why a literal legend was crashing their school. She casually introduced Iren as her little brother raised in the forest. The headmaster nearly had a stroke. But the angry teacher wasn't buying it. He screamed that Iren cheated and used dirty tricks to smash the boulder. The headmaster roared to disqualify him immediately. The crowd murmured at the drama. But then Lilyle leaned in and whispered secrets to Iren right in front of everyone. The headmaster saw the connection and started choking on his own words. He panicked and did a complete 180. He screamed that Iren was officially accepted. Bibim lost it and demanded to know why a country bumpkin got in. But the headmaster just shut him down and called him a total fool. The headmaster tried to speechify about talent, but Lilyle cut him off. She put the ball in Iren's court. Was the exam fair? Iren realized if he complained, the school would burn down. So he played dumb. Oh yeah, totally fair. Best exam ever. The staff was shaking in their boots, and the headmaster dragged him away before he could say anything else. Iren just wanted a quiet life, but now he is stuck in a political mess. And Bibim isn't done yet. He pointed a finger and swore he would prove Iren is a dirty cheater. Iren is already ignoring the plot to stare at the shiny loot in the headmaster's office. The headmaster is sweating buckets but lets him browse, while the room screams, "Expensive exposition!" Tea time is over. The lady cuts the small talk. The old man braces for impact as she asks if he knows why they are invading his turf. He fakes excitement to keep it professional. Then she drops the nuke. They are here to test the entire human race. Every student in this academy is now a guinea pig. If they fail, humanity gets deleted. The headmaster jumps out of his skin and demands a reason. The reason is simple. Humans tried to kidnap a royal dragon infant. The old man cannot believe it. She lists the receipts. They forgave the smashed shrines. They even forgave the stolen eggs. This crossed the line. The ancient pact is officially trash. The headmaster begs and screams that deleting everyone is insane. She calls their deletion a final act of mercy and tells him to cope. Here is the kicker. Iren is the judge. If he says no value, it is game over. The headmaster wants to warn the school. She shuts that down instantly. Iren must see the raw, ugly truth, so this mission stays top secret. She dropped the hammer immediately. If word gets out, the judgment is final, meaning everyone gets deleted. With the threat delivered, she switched back to polite mode. She sent her regards to the king and signaled for Iren to follow. But the second they hit the hallway, the mask slipped. She cooed at him, calling him her dear, adorable little Iren. Then she went full yandere. She swore that if anyone bullied him, she wouldn't just call the teacher, she'd literally burn the capital to ash. Iren started sweating bullets. He begged her not to commit war crimes just because he had a bad day. With that terrifying promise hanging in the air, the big day finally arrived. Welcome to the Royal Academy. He steps into the main hall. The architecture is loud, but his hype is louder. It is finally game time. He spent the entire break back home grinding his stats. He memorized every rule of etiquette and downloaded the entire history textbook into his brain. No more failing grades. He is mentally jacked and ready to achieve the ultimate goal, securing exactly 100 human friends. But the admins trolled him hard. He walks in and realizes he is the only one sitting alone in the VIP section. This is the royal guest class. It is strictly for princes, dukes, and nepo babies. Iren is the only normie here, and the rich kids are already whispering about the intruder. He starts sweating because he remembers the golden rule. Commoners are legally forbidden from talking to royalty first, so he is forced to play the world's most awkward waiting game, praying this blonde girl notices his existence before he gets deleted by cringe. Just as he accepted his fate as a background character, a voice cut through the cringe. Iren pointed at himself, totally confused. Then his brain rebooted. That's the crown prince. He snapped into a perfect bow, greeting royalty like a total pro. Reed was actually shocked someone recognized his face. Iren was just screaming internally, thanking his late-night study sessions for saving his life. He introduced himself without stuttering once, and miraculously, Reed treated him like a human being. Then, Reed tried to be cool. He suggested a commoner handshake and reached out, but Iren's survival instincts misfired hard. He thought he was about to get backhanded into the shadow realm and ducked for cover. The gallery gasped. A peasant with manners? Illegal. Even Reed had to admit it. He gave Iren a passing grade for the class, but he made sure to drop a quick threat just to keep the hierarchy clear. Iren didn't care. He was just glad he didn't get game ended. The room's vibe shifted instantly. Since the prince didn't delete him, the NPCs figured Iren was safe to gawk at. He was calculating his clout score when, bam, a chaotic force kicked in the door. Mill made a sparkly anime entrance. Reed took one look and his brain short-circuited straight to marriage mode. He stomped over like he wanted smoke. He got right in her face, closing the distance. But he wasn't tough, he was sweating bullets. She barely squeaked out a hello before he panicked. He dropped a 90-degree apology bow so fast he almost snapped his spine. He tried to recover by flexing his royal title. But Mill spotted Iren and ghosted the prince instantly. She tackled Iren. The dragon royal girl had officially joined the server. Iren looked dead inside. His dream of a quiet solo run just got absolutely destroyed. Her friends panicked, asking why she just ghosted the crown prince. She shut them down instantly, saying she had zero interest in that guy. The nobles lost their minds, whispering about her disrespect toward Lord Reed. Mill ignored the drama, turning her laser focus back to Iren. He realized his dream of a quiet high school life was totally cooked. Reed made it worse, stepping in to remind the commoner of his place. Finally, the boring lectures are over. It's time for the first practical magic class. The courtyard was packed with students getting ready to throw down. But Mill was too busy shouting about campus romance, making Iren want to disappear. Iren had to drop a serious warning about her behavior. He reminded her that regular humans have zero mental defense against her. Her Dragon King charisma isn't just a vibe, it's basically high-tier brainwashing magic. Walking through the halls felt like running a social gauntlet. The haters were screaming insults like bumpkin, but Iren ignored the jealous NPCs. Suddenly, a perfectly polished boot stepped right into their path. And judging by the expensive drip, this wasn't just another random extra. The polished boot belonged to Miser, the new instructor. She immediately flexed her connection to the Duke. Iren wasn't impressed by the resume drop. He was too busy roasting their magic system. He noted that their flashy chants were just useless lag that nerfed the actual spells. Iren questioned the safety protocols, but Miser skipped the tutorial. She demanded everyone use fire magic. The students were confused. They thought this was level 1 trash, but she insisted fire was the current meta for pure destruction. She called on Lord Reed to explain the mechanics, and the pretty boy didn't miss a beat. He claimed fire is the ultimate flex because it combos with everything except water, creating magma or thermal blasts. The NPCs started glazing him immediately, acting like he just invented electricity. But Iren spotted a bug in the logic. He accidentally muttered that Reed made a mistake and realized too late that he wasn't on mute. Reed decided to stir the pot. He cornered instructor Miser with a casual question. He brought up the rumor about the shattered unbreakable boulder, and Miser panicked. Even the peanut gallery noticed the evidence was missing. So Reed proposed a live demonstration, pointing straight at Iren. The class lost their minds when Miser confirmed the country bumpkin was the suspect. Reed admitted he'd been investigating how a commoner got into the royal class. Iren tried to play it cool, acting like nobody would believe him anyway. But the mob smelled blood in the water. Reed set the trap. If the boulder story is true, then mixing fire attributes should be child's play. He whipped the crowd into a frenzy, using peer pressure as a weapon. He got right in Iren's face, daring him to back down. Reed waited for the excuse, but Iren just shrugged and agreed to the test. Reed smirked internally, convinced the kid was a fraud. He figured the boulder broke from a physical trick, not magic. He was absolutely certain this gym uniform commoner was about to be exposed. Iren needed a safety net for this freestyle session. He asked Mill to buff the target. She agreed, stacking a barrier so thick the peanut gallery gasped. Reed grabbed his collar. He accused him of dragging Mill into a trap. Iren was confused. The guy ordered the demo, now he wants to cancel it? Make it make sense. Reed screamed at Miser to pull the plug. The teacher reminded him who signed the permission slip. Reed clicked his tongue. Mill was in the splash zone. Iren realized the guy wasn't evil, just a massive simp. Miser offered a staff. Iren waved it off. He preferred going barehanded. The instructor sighed, but let him cook. The class lined up for the fireworks. Iren ran the numbers. Fire plus earth made a bullet. Fire plus wind made heat, but he was going off script. He lit the fuse. The crowd whispered. No chanting, silent casting. Iren focused. Compression first, then a dash of earth for weight. He stabilized the shape. He locked the energy in his palm. Next, he wrapped the core in wind magic. Reed's eyes bugged out. Mixing earth and wind? That was a 3-attribute combo. Impossible for a normie. The students lost it. Only royals had that kind of juice. The magic formula was alien. The pressure spiked off the charts. Reed analyzed the black orb. He laughed at the triple combo label. He saw the truth. It wasn't 3 attributes, it was 4. Iren pulled the trigger. Buster Cannon! The beam tore across the arena. Mill gritted her teeth. She reinforced the shield. The impact shook the school's foundation. The beast was toast. Iren thanked Mill for the assist. The instructor killed the vibe instantly. She praised the technique, then dropped the hammer. She said that magic was way too dangerous for a simple demo. The class whispered that only Mill could have contained it, so the teacher moved on. She told everyone else to start practicing their fire palette techniques. Then she banished Iren and Mill to the sidelines. Benched. Iren wondered what crime he committed, but Mill just shrugged it off. Iren was just trying to catch his breath on the sidelines. Reed rolled up on him like a disappointed parent. He leaned in, demanding to know exactly what kind of cheat code Iren just used. Iren looked up, completely rattled by the sudden VIP interrogation. Reed started dissecting the spell. Fire inside earth, boosted by wind. He tracked all that. The math didn't add up though. He accused Iren of pulling off a legendary quad attribute technique. Iren finally clicked. Standard human formulas are way too small to fit 4 elements at once. He mentally kicked himself. Next time he would stick to a boring dual combo to blend in. Reed wasn't letting him off the hook that easy. He pressed for the final detail, the attribute added right before the shot. Iren gave a casual shrug. It was water. Reed and Mill nearly choked. Water cancels fire. It doesn't buff it. Iren went full science teacher on them. Sure, water puts out the fire. That reaction releases energy though. Scale it up and you get a massive explosion. Reed started sweating, realizing this kid was walking around with a live nuke. The noble decided he had heard enough crazy for one day and dipped before his brain melted. Iren just laughed. He admitted that if you mess up the timing, you self-delete. His master used to roast him daily for having a death wish. Reed let it rip, screaming firebolt at the top of her lungs. She followed up instantly with a rapid-fire bullet. She scorched the earth with a massive heat flame. But Iren's words echoed in her mind. A water attribute. Reed realized the danger. This was the volatile ingredient she needed. She decided to roll the dice. She summoned a swirling sphere of water to start the chain reaction. But high-tier magic ain't free. His hand is literally cooking. He hits the deck, biting back a curse. He scrambles for cover before that drone catches him slipping. His magic is god tier, but his body is barely holding it together. From the outside, it looked flawless. He smashed through those shields like they were made of cheap glass. The witness is absolutely shook. He's trying to figure out if Iren is a genius or just a total monster. Iren is zoning out in front of a massive mansion. A voice calls out, snapping him back to reality. Inside, the vibe is way more chill. The maids welcome them home, and Mill is already yapping about how awesome the academy was. There's a catch though. Students are supposed to live in dorms, unless you're a commoner. Then you're banned, so they get this private villa instead. The maid ushers him in, hitting him with a polite, young master. Iren asks her to drop the fancy titles. She immediately panics, swearing she can't disrespect the headmaster's kin. Turns out, the headmaster practically begged them to stay here just to suck up to Iren. She tells them to relax until dinner. Iren heads upstairs, thinking he could definitely get used to this luxury life. Next morning, the maid was already on the prowl. She shouted Iren's name and he popped up like a confused toaster. She wasn't just there to clean, she handed him a mysterious letter. Iren stared at it blankly, playing the amnesia card to avoid explaining anything. But the maid had her own theory. She accused him of hiding a spicy love letter. She waltzed out, humming a happy tune while leaving him to deal with the cringe. Once she was gone, Iren finally got serious. He checked the wax seal. It wasn't from the royals, but a noble family. He tore it open to find a classic trap. Meet me on the academy rooftop at noon. Iren crept up the stairs, clutching the secret letter like it was contraband. He couldn't let the squad find out. Meal would roast him alive, and Lil Isle would turn it into a national crisis. He decided to risk the cringe and check it out. Stepping into the courtyard, he stayed skeptical. Nobles didn't slide into his DMs. This had to be a trap. He spotted a figure waiting ominously near the edge of the roof. Launarise stood there, letting the wind do its dramatic anime thing. He recognized the mismatched eyes immediately. That is the second princess. He walked over expecting a trap, but she just flinched. He dropped into a formal bow. She freaked out, demanding he treat her like a normal classmate, so he awkwardly agreed. He brought up the letter. She started blushing and trembling. Iren's brain went offline, convinced he was about to get a love confession. But nope, she screamed, "Who are you?" eye-chattering his dreams instantly. She grilled him on his backstory. He tried the "I am just a nobody" excuse, but she called his bluff immediately. She revealed her secret weapon, the Divine Eye. She watched him cast spells in class, and she knows he is cheating the system. She trained for years to sense magic. He does it instantly with zero chanting. The difference was impossible to ignore. She dropped the hammer. "You aren't human, are you?" Iren froze. Game over. Iren panicked and shouted he was 100% human. Launarise froze because she realized he wasn't lying. She immediately dropped into a 90-degree bow and begged for forgiveness. Iren started sweating bullets because a royal was bowing to a nobody like him. She ignored the awkwardness and demanded to know how he cast a spell without a chant. He explained that skipping the chant is actually way harder. Chants are like autopilot. You can't tweak the code once it starts running. To cast without one, you have to build the entire magical formula from scratch in real time. He admitted he is constantly constructing these formulas in his head. Launarise looked like her brain just short-circuited. Iren freaked out and asked if being a math nerd was illegal in human culture. She wasn't disgusted, she was fangirling. She screamed that it was absolutely amazing. Iren finally realized this girl wasn't a cop, she was just a massive magic otaku. She confessed that her divine eyes let her see the structure of spells, and his efficiency was like a work of art. Most guys would run, but Iren just felt relieved she wasn't arresting him. He told her that her passion was actually pretty cute. She turned beet red, but then asked why he ran away earlier. He simply pointed at the smoking crater she had blasted into the pavement 5 minutes ago. She tried to defend herself and claimed she thought he was a villain plotting something evil. She had to work up serious courage just to confront him. Iren pointed out that stalking him wasn't exactly heroic behavior. She immediately crumbled and apologized for her lack of manners. She tried to change the subject because she was desperate to save face. Iren sighed and told her he just wants a quiet life at the academy. She agreed and promised to apologize to his friend. The misunderstanding was finally buried. With the beef finally squashed, Iren chalked it up as a total win. He turned to bail, ready to fade back into obscurity. But Launarise wasn't having it and begged him to freeze right there. Then she dropped the one question that kills a quiet life. She wants to start a club. Launarise didn't waste a second, leaning in with a blush to drop the bomb. She asked him to start a club. Iren froze, completely blindsided. Later, Mill couldn't believe he actually ghosted a girl like that. Once Iren explained the invite included her, she flipped the script instantly. She was totally in. Iren was sweating the details, worried this would blow their cover on the judgment of humanity. Mill waved it off, swearing her dragon royalty secret was safe. She told him to quit worrying and just embrace the academy life. She laughed at his grim face, roasting him for being way too serious. Iren wasn't joking though. He wanted to turn this club into a tactical op for one simple reason, Laura. Getting close to her was the perfect bait to see how everyone else really reacted. It would expose the ugly side of humanity, just like the greedy monsters who invaded the forest back then. Playing it safe was boring, but a commoner cozying up to a foreign princess? That was a recipe for drama. Mill insisted they weren't trying to start a war, just being friendly. Exactly. The haters would reveal themselves without any help. Mill pointed a finger, arguing that if you only look at the sunshine and rainbows, you're blind. Iren agreed. They had to draw out the darkness to make a fair judgment. The silence hung heavy between them. He made the call. He'd tell her they were in. Mill went absolutely nuclear, cheering for club life like she just won the lottery. Iren just sipped his tea. He definitely just got played. Class is in session, and the professor just dropped a new quest: water magic creation. Mill instantly locks in her partner, leaving Iren wondering how he got dragged into this mess. The room starts buzzing because Laura isn't just a pretty face, she is high-tier royalty. Everyone wanted her clout, but she picked a random commoner. The social gap here is lethal. Mill tries to hype up the squad, so Iren plays it safe and bows to Lady Launarise. She shuts that down instantly. No titles, just Laura. The nobles are seething with rage. Mill thinks he's lucky, but Iren knows his peaceful life just got deleted. The whole class is freaking out except for Reed, while Iren just blue screens. System crash, 0 thoughts found. He tries to deflect the heat onto Mill, but the teacher calls time, so they finally focus on the actual assignment: aqua control. You shape the water or it splashes. They need to turn liquid into art, and Mill is ready to cook. Reed cuts the yapping. He steps up and challenges Iren to a team battle. Iren is down, but they need a ref. Reed suggests Princess Launarise keep score. Iren calls foul. She is on their squad. Talk about biased. But Reed swears her mystic eye makes it physically impossible for her to lie. Iren realizes this guy knows too much. The crowd hypes up the noble versus the commoner match. Reed finally drops his terms. He turns to the girl with a ruthless command. She is never to go near Iren again. He guilt trips her with their royal blood, and she folds like laundry. She tries to apologize, but Iren interrupts to take the deal. Then he flips the script. What if his team wins? The nobles go feral. They grab him, screaming insults at the filthy commoner. Mill spots the real danger. If Iren gets game ended here, his sister will literally burn the capital to ash. Suddenly, nobody is laughing. Iren switches off student mode. A leader using power to trigger a mob? That is a strike against the species. If humanity fails this vibe check, they face total deletion.